on the agenda tonight is proclamation for Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service on Monday, January 16th, 2023. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King's teachings can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities, and whereas the King Holiday and Service Act, enacted in 1994, designated the King Holiday as a national day of volunteer service and charged the Corporation for National and Community Service with leading this effort. And whereas since 1994, millions of Americans have been inspired by the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King to serve their neighbors and communities on the King Holiday. And whereas serving on the King Holiday is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King, meet local and national needs, bring our citizens together, and strengthen our communities and nation. And whereas the King Day of Service is the only federal holiday commemorated as a national day of service and offers an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities on the holiday and make an ongoing commitment to service throughout the year. And whereas the King Day of Service projects are being organized by a wide range of nonprofit and community organizations, educational institutions, public agencies, private businesses, and other organizations across the nation. And now, therefore, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim Monday, January 16th, 2023, as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, commend its observation through participation in a day of service, adopted the third day of January 2023. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Let the record show that it was voted on unanimously. Moving on now to approval of the agenda. We all have a copy of the agenda in front of us. I'll seek a motion for approval.
Make a motion for approval.
Second. Any discussions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on now to approval of minutes from our work session on December 13th. I'll seek a motion for approval of the minutes from that day.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? December 13th minutes passed unanimously. Public hearing from the Transit Department on December 20th of 2022. We have the motion for approval of those minutes.
I'll second.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. That one passes as well. And then lastly, our minutes from our regular meeting on December 20th, 2022. Seek a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Going on down now to administrative reports. Really, there's nothing to report on the chairman's side. I've scheduled myself a continuing ed in January down in Raleigh that I'll be attending. There's been a lot of cold activity, obviously, in the community. We experienced a lot of that in Cashers, and I'm for sure across the county. So that's all I have to report. Is anyone else?
No report tonight.
Yes, sir.
Just want to say I'm scheduled to take the commissioner's classes, I think by Angie's help, the 18th to the 20th, I believe that's right, online classes. So looking forward to do that and learning more about how government works.
No report.
evening. I just wanted to say I enjoyed handing out some Christmas stuff there before the holidays. Went to some different departments and saw some people and all that. And I'm also looking forward to getting on the rec board with Rusty and all those folks.
I'd like to thank, obviously, Todd and all EMS, emergency management staff for the emergency declaration that we had here in the county and the wonderful services they provided for all of us during that difficult couple days. Mr. Sheriff as well. Moving on down, Mr. Adams with the county manager report.
I have no formal report today. I just want to reiterate the chairman's comments. Just thanking everybody on the cold weather event, emergency management, sheriff's office, DSS, recreation folks for opening up those warming stations. It's just good to have staff that's willing to come out on Christmas Eve day to try to help our citizens. We have no one signed up for public comments here.
Moving on down now to our new business, budget ordinance and amendment by Ms. Fox. I'll turn the floor over to Ms. Fox.
Good afternoon. The first amendment I have is for the sheriff, well, actually both of them is for sheriff's office. The first one though is an increase of $382,591 coming from fund balance, and that covers the payouts that we had between administrations. And then we had one that was a contribution-based benefit cap for retirement that we have to cover. The second amendment is for North Carolina Department of Health and Human Service COVID grant for the confinement facility. It's 100%, and it's $87,058. And it covers some cleaning services in the jail, sprayers, UV room sanitizers, and tracking software for the inmates. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the amendments.
Questions from the board?
Thank you.
These amendments, are we seeking a vote tonight? Okay. For the first budget ordinance amendment, totaling $382,591. Madam Clerk, if you'll call us a roll call vote, please.
We can, yeah, we'll need
Oh,
a
we
motion
have a
and a
motion
second
for
first.
approval, I'm sorry.
We can do both these amendments together, can't we?
You can if you choose.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve both budget amendments to,
Second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
yes.
Commissioner Stribling, Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on now to Mr. Adams.
Yes, sir. So you have enclosed in your packets. We also have up on the screen the proposed upcoming fiscal year 23-24 budget. This is an introductory conversation to the board. This will be put on next week's work session agenda, and then we'll request the board to do finalization at our last meeting of this month. But I did want to cover some highlights here, if the board would bear with me. Just things that I'm asking you to start thinking about in terms of just upcoming schedules in February, but also trying to look out into June. I know that sometimes that's looking far out, but ultimately trying to put ourselves in a position that you allocate enough time that you feel necessary to review the budget. So if you go through, it's fairly self-explanatory, but what I did try to do is highlight in bold areas that I thought you all needed to really pay attention to and give us some direction. You know, obviously January 10th is our work session. That's when we're going to discuss it further at the work session. February 21st, this is looking to schedule a budget retreat. This is actually February 21st is during a regularly scheduled meeting that night at 6:30. So if you were to hold it on that day, then that means you would need to have a day budget retreat. Of course, I know with you all schedules and so forth, that needs to be a conversation to be held. But if not then the only real, other than trying to work it out with everybody's calendar or your calendars and staff, is the only thing that I'm looking to do is that February 28th, I tried to get this budget calendar in this retreat done before I sit and have my first meeting with the department heads and elected officials as a whole. So just let you know, those two dates somewhat tied together a little bit. And then ultimately you can see at this budget retreat, before I leave that really is it's a high level view of the budget. It's what we're attempting to do, and this is something Chairman Letson and I will continue to have conversations on, is to try to get some priorities from this board, try to get goals and objectives. We'll also provide you with a lot of information in regards to just our finances, what has been accomplished. This isn't an hour or two meeting. We need to, when you're looking to time this out, we need at least a half a day. So if we're starting at night, then I would ask that we start maybe at 5:30, and then we maybe bring in a dinner, and then plan on spending some hours so that we can go through the information. If we do it during the day, normally we can start around 1 and finish around 5. We would start off at lunch and bring you lunch somewhere. We normally don't have it here. In the past, we've had it at like an NCAT over at Western Carolina University or at the Pearl Building, LCC. Trying to get you around some tables where you can spread out the information. We'll have all the digital access to all the digital information that we need wherever we go. And these are things that Chairman Litson and I will discuss further. For right now, just looking to try to get it on your calendar and getting a good 4 to 5 hours scheduled for this meeting. And then, as you can see, after that meeting, I would meet with the departments and offices. That is really a directional conversation, just so you know. I would also I generally provide information in regards to any upcoming overall personnel thoughts, upcoming thoughts of what I would look to do as far as recommendations to the board in regards to step increases, cost of living increases. We also have conversations with department offices about our insurance. Finance office gives direction in regards to all of this timeline of when things are due. We hand out budget packets to all the operations. So that it really is an organizational meeting with the departments and offices. That's what that really is. March 1st, you can see grant application, our nonprofit grant applications are disseminated. And then March 15th, I don't have anything scheduled for the March 15th here, special call budget meeting. I'm throwing this out. In the past couple of years, that meeting really has been used to work with safety issues. So if you recall, in the past couple of years, we've dealt with first the Colowee Fire Department going full time, and then we went with the Silva Fire Department going full time. We also went through revaluation. You notice on there it talks about a special call budget meeting. We did revenue discussions. I just think if we will schedule a meeting sometime in there, and then we can, depending on what comes out of the February 21st meeting, that generally, or whenever you do the retreat, that really is going to dictate what's going to be in that mid-March meeting, if that makes any sense, as far as trying to schedule that meeting for budget. Then you can see that March 24th is all requests submitted to finance. March 31st, nonprofit applications due to finance. And then what we do, this is the work session in April 11th. What I attempt to do, I have finance office go through and we summarize all new personnel requests, all capital requests, all new. We try to put it in about anywhere from a 5 to 6 page document. That what you can do is take the 5 or 6 page document and compare it to the whole budget. It's really just trying to show you new things that are being requested, capital items, things of that nature, and really just giving you. I try to show you any new programming, any new personnel. I'm just trying to get that out in front of you as a board as soon as I can. Hopefully you see April 17th to the 28th. That really, just so you know, from myself and from Finance Officer Fox, we are really tied up solid for those 2 weeks because we are sitting and meeting with all departments and operations. It really is meeting after meeting after meeting. We're going through requests, things of that nature, and so that's what that 2 weeks is for. If you look at that May 1st and May 5th, the finance officer needs time to look at inputs. As we go through those conversations, so we receive the budgets, but we read over the budgets before we meet with them. Then when I sit down and meet with the departments, this is a large document. You have to think in terms of, we have to make sure the information we received is correct. Sometimes information, this is also continuously flowing and changing, just so you know in this time frame. And so what we're doing at that point is finance officer May 1st through 5th is trying to get inputs and trying to just make sure everything as far as the budget is concerned is input correctly. May 8th through May 12th, you can see that that's the manager and the finance officer. We're finalizing things. May 9th, what I do in that meeting is I come back to you and I show you any changes from what I showed you from April 14th. So what I'm trying to, April 14th, I believe April 11th, we're giving you a snapshot at that time. Well, then a month later, as I said, this thing's progressively changed. Things get added, taken away, and what I try to do is show you any changes at that point at the May 9th meeting. And then you can see May 16th, taking in the priorities from the county commissioners, taking in all the additional meetings that we had with you mid-March, and then all the meetings that I hold with the departments and operations. That's when the manager's recommended budget will be presented to the Board of Commissioners. And at that point, it becomes your budget. Okay? And this is where I really would ask you to concentrate on the time after May 16th also, because it becomes your budget at this point. If you wanted to make changes, add, take away, things of that nature. And so you can see in bold, this is traditionally, you usually try to meet May 18th or 19th. And what I attempt to do in that couple day period, and so a lot of times it doesn't necessarily take a couple of days depending upon the nonprofits, but I at least try to take one day and schedule the larger operations. And when I mean larger operations, that would be the sheriff's office, that would be the Board of Education, SCC. These are what I would consider all of our operations important, but these are larger operations with significant potential impacts to the budget. And so try to schedule it within those 2 days. That's the reason I try to get those 2 days right around that time period. And then you can see June 6th is supposed to have the public hearing. That one I wouldn't recommend changing because remember, the public hearings are based upon the budgets presented May 16th. After that public hearing, you can make any changes. You don't have to have another public hearing. You make any changes deemed appropriate after that public hearing. And then you can see I'm looking at June 8th and 9th and 12th, 13th, and 14th. Is really as the remaining days to tweak and make changes to the budget. And again, it may not exactly be these days, but if you'll pull your calendar out and really just start looking at this, you can see where I'm trying to fit these meetings within certain timelines. And then the proposed adoption of the budget would be June 20th, 2023. And now, by law, you have until the end of June to pass the budget. And so we can have that conversation about, depending on where you're at, you can have that conversation about if there's something you needed to do here. Just remember, though, if by law, you're looking on the screen, if you have to pass it by then, staff has to have a couple days to implement changes, So you start talking about the 26th or 27th is sort of the deadline of any final changes to get it to there if you want it to go that long. Hopefully you'll be in a position to where you adopt it the 20th. And so that's the reason, if you notice, I ended it on the 14th, because making any major changes on the 15th or 16th or the 19th really puts a bind on staff about implementing the change. And what happens in this document, you can make literally one change and it translates all the way through the budget, whether it be just one employee salary change or in one employee change, it does translate to quite a bit of work through the budget. And so ultimately, if you make multiple changes, obviously it would take them a day or two to get it right. And the main thing we want is for finance officers to have enough time to implement the changes, review it, make sure it's correct for the budget when it comes back to you. And just remember what will happen is that budget book that I provided to you all, that's eventually what you would adopt. What you're actually adopting is when you go back in there is that budget ordinance. That's actually the legal document that you as a board would be adopting. But at the end of the day, around the June 20th date, if that's when you adopt it, what we're looking to do is have that budget book and that budget ordinance in front of you correct with all the changes implemented for you to take a vote on. So I asked the board just to go back, if you can, between now and next Tuesday, start pulling your calendars out and just looking at all these dates and just start looking at, does these days work for you or do we need to change it around a little bit?
I mean, Mr. Chairman, are most of these dates that require attendance on Tuesdays?
On Tuesdays?
It'd be good for requesting time off to know what days, other than our regular scheduled meetings.
Yeah, so the March 14th is, yes, I think if you look at the February 21st, it is. Then you start, you scroll on down, May 18th. May 18th, I think, is the different one that it generally, because I get presented on that Tuesday, so that's that Thursday and Friday that we've normally met in the previous years where we've had the larger departments come present. So you can see that one's off a little bit. And then if you scroll down and start looking at June 6th is the Tuesday. And then you can see the 8th and 9th right there is not a Tuesday, it's a Thursday and Friday. And then you see that 12th, 13th, and 14th, which is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then the adoption will be on the 20th. And that's the reason I just go in and literally I request you just take this home and pull a calendar out and just start taking notes. And we can continue this conversations next week. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Adams. Moving on now to board appointments. First is for the cemetery board. Currently, we have,
Mr. Chairman, if I can address this one, I
Yes, ma'am.
had to talk after last meeting with Commissioner Bryson, who has some expertise in this area and would be a good fit for this board. And so I told him I would look at the bylaws of this board and report back, and with Commissioner Smith as well. And I did look at the bylaws, and the bylaws do require that, and there's some notes here at the bottom that you can see that each commissioner appoints somebody that's a resident of their district. And then there are the two special appointments for Genealogical Society and Historical Society. However, there's a perfect position on this in that the bylaws allow for an ad hoc position with somebody with expertise who can serve in that position. So we went ahead and added it here. If that is something the board wants to appoint, could appoint Commissioner Bryson in this vacant spot that would be for the term of his office to provide the expertise in this area.
I'd like to say, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I do manage two cemeteries, Fairview Memorial Gardens. I think me and Commissioner Jones spoke about that last meeting. Fairview Memorial Gardens and Sway Memorial Park. So I do have expertise when it comes to the cemetery business as well as the funeral business. So I would be honored to serve on that board and help out with the cemetery board.
I'll make a motion for Commissioner Bryson to be appointed to that ex officio position.
a second. Is this a roll call vote or, okay, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stripley,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes. Okay, moving on now to the Cullowhee Planning Council and its vacant seats. Currently, there are 2 seats that are looking to be filled. One is by Mr. Sink and another by Miss Manring. They've both been approved by planning, and I'll seek a motion for their approval to the Cullowhee Planning Council.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Fontana Regional Library has a position that is requesting that Miss Margaret Carton be allowed to fill out Rebecca Bryson's term. And she would do so until 2024, where she would be able to serve another term. Is there a motion to apply or allow Miss Carton to accept that position?
I'll make a motion for Ms. Carton to fulfill Ms. Bryson's term.
Second motion.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes. Next, we have 2 applicants for the Jackson County Planning Office, or Jackson County Planning Board. Adam Holt and Nathan Shepard. Mr. Holt and Mr. Shepard are both residents of the county and meet the minimum qualifications to serve. I'll seek approval for Mr. Holt and Mr. Shepard.
I make a motion that we approve Mr. Holt and Mr. Shepard for the planning board.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we also have Ms. Crespo for that third open position that wasn't on the,
For the open position.
Yes.
Is there,
is there a procedure for?
has her application been presented? And it's,
Beverly Crespo.
yes. So,
Most of us are familiar with her.
I'll seek a motion to approve Ms. Crespo to the planning board as well.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes.
Chairman Letson, does that fill all the vacant
It does.
spots on that board? Okay.
Board is full.
Moving now to Jackson County Public Library. Ms. Carton has also requested to fill Ms. Bryson's term at the library as well. Do you have a motion for approval for Ms. Bryson, or for Ms. Carton?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling, Chairman Letson.
Yes. For Recreation, Parks and Advisory Council, we have, I believe, 2. One is for Tom Watterson, and the other is for Anna Lippard. I'm sorry, we have 1 for the Planning Council, and that's Tom Watterson. It looks like Miss Lippard is willing to sit another term, so 2. Sorry.
Is she eligible? I see she already has 3 terms.
She is, because she is the health department's representative. It's a good question, but she is on this one.
And she wasn't able to find someone to, okay. Well, I appreciate her stepping up and coming back. I'll seek a motion for Mr. Watterson and Miss Lippard to be on the, is there a second? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Letson.
Yes. Moving on now, is there any questions from the press? Okay. Is there a need for closed session tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. With no need for closed session, just a reminder that we have our January 10th work session at 1 p.m. and our regular meeting at January 17th. And I'll seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?